My name is Shadi Hamid. I'm a senior fellow here at the Center for Middle East Policy at Brookings. I work on the role of Islam in politics and Islamist movements as well, including the Muslim Brotherhood. When we talk about Islamists broadly, Islamists are those who believe that Islam and Islamic law should play a central role in public and political life. Now, we have those on the fringes of the far right, like ISIS, which use violence and savagery, but most Islamists are what I would call mainstream Islamist groups. They're not going about stoking revolutions. They accept the nation state and they work within the structures of the nation state. They participate in the parliamentary process, and they are largely nonviolent. As a factual matter, the Muslim Brotherhood is not a terrorist organization. There is not a single American expert on the Muslim Brotherhood who supports designating them, and that's worth emphasizing. So this is a unanimous position among all of us who study this group. Now, we can disagree on whether the group is bad, authoritarian, illiberal. That's all fine. But on the specific issue of whether they meet the criteria for being an FTO, a foreign terrorist organization, the arguments and the evidence simply aren't there. If the US, the leader of the free world, designated the Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, that would give more license to repressive regimes abroad, including in Egypt, to crack down even more on Islamist groups. And we also have to be really careful here. Do we want to further feed into ISIS's propaganda? Their message is basically that change is not possible within the political process, that democracy doesn't work because Islamists, like the Brotherhood, like these other groups, will never be allowed to participate. And so ISIS uses that to say the only way is to use brute force and violence to get what you want. And if the US is essentially calling all Islamist groups and not making distinctions between the extreme right and the mainstream groups like the Brotherhood, that really supports this idea that there is no room for Islamists in the political process, even if they're peaceful, even if they renounce violence, and that the ISIS way is the only way. Do we really want to encourage that kind of narrative? What's really interesting is that Trump administration members and surrogates haven't really made arguments about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt being a terrorist organization. They haven't made that case. What we do hear from them, however, over the past 5 to 10 years is this really consistent idea of the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamists trying to infiltrate the US. You have this kind of conspiracy theory that different US Muslim organizations have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. So I think a real concern here is this designation also a smokescreen to essentially attack the American Muslim community through guilt by association? And then you really get into this slippery slope of the American Muslim community being guilty until proven innocent. So this isn't really about the Brotherhood. It's part of a broader argument about a civilizational clash. And this idea that whether it's radical Islamic terrorists, to use the phrase, or the Brotherhood or Islamists, that this is all part of this broader ideological enemy, which is challenging Judeo-Christian civilization. Phrases like radical Islamic terrorism, while they are imprecise, they are effective rhetorically because they make it sound like it is a broader struggle. It's not just about fighting the very tiny minority of Muslims worldwide who engage in terrorist acts. It's about something bigger, and to try to enlist Americans in the US to be part of this civilizational struggle. We used to hear it just from the furthest fringes of the far right in the US, but now we have people who believe in those things at the very center of the White House, the very center of American power.